I'm Gavin Ellsworth, 33, and I live in Seattle, where I spend my days untangling brands and building strategies for a living. For the past 4 years, I thought I'd been building something just as solid with Rowena Clark. She's 29, an interior designer with an eye for beauty and a killer smile. We were 2 weeks away from our wedding in Big Sky, Montana. 60 people, an intimate ceremony. Everything planned down to the last napkin. That's always been my approach. Break things down, make a plan, execute. It's worked in my career, so I figured it'd work in my personal life too. Rowena and I made sense. She brought the warmth, I brought the logic. We balanced each other, or so I thought. Then I found the messages. It was a Tuesday night, September 7th, 2024. Rowena was in the shower, and her laptop was sitting open on the counter. I didn't mean to snoop, but a notification popped up. Travis Delmere, her ex, 31, freelance photographer, always in some kind of crisis, if you asked Rowena. I clicked, and what I saw hit me like a punch, even though my face didn't give anything away. That's the thing about being methodical. You don't react, you process. The text stretched back months, flirty messages, photos I won't describe, plans to sneak off to a coffee shop in Ballard. Then, the line that really did me in, I think I'm still confused about what I feel for you. She sent that 3 days after we finalized our wedding invitations. I didn't confront her, didn't slam the laptop, didn't storm into the bathroom. I took screenshots, every conversation, organized by date, saved in a hidden folder. I closed the laptop just as I found it. Rowena came out, hair wrapped in a towel, asked what I wanted for dinner. Whatever you feel like, I said. She smiled, kissed my cheek. If stories of cold-blooded revenge are your thing, stick around. Hit subscribe. There's plenty more where this came from. The next 2 weeks I watched her. Suddenly all the signs made sense. The way she shielded her phone, got vague about her plans, the distance in bed I'd blamed on wedding stress. She insisted Travis be invited. He's an old friend. It would mean a lot. I agreed, no hesitation. Meanwhile, I got busy. I sat down with my lawyer, combed through our prenup, locked up every loophole. I called the Big Sky venue and made some specific requests about the AV system. The $18,000 we'd saved for our Bali honeymoon, I redirected it. Instead, I donated it to a non-profit for young artists in Montana. I commissioned pieces for our wedding venue, art scattered through the barn. The artists thought they were getting a break. Really, they were getting a future, paid for by what should have been my honeymoon. Rowena noticed none of it. She was too busy texting Travis and picking out flower arrangements. Then, the morning of the wedding, September 21st, 2024, showed up. Big Sky in late September is unreal. Mountains, golden sunlight, pine trees everywhere. The venue was perfect, just like Rowena wanted. I got ready slowly. Navy suit, white shirt, those cufflinks from my dad. In the mirror, I looked calm, like any groom. On the inside, not so much. Then someone knocked. Rowena stepped in, still in her robe, hair half done, eyes red. She looked wrecked. "Gavin," she said, voice wavering, "I think I need some time. I don't know if I'm ready for this." We stood there in silence. She probably thought she was controlling the story, calling it off herself, maybe planning to run back to Travis and keep me as plan B. I just looked at her and said, "Time granted." Walked past her, fixed my tie, and headed for the altar. The barn was packed, 60 guests, family, friends from college, co-workers from Seattle. Rowena's parents in the front row, her mum already crying happy tears. The stage was set. Travis Delmere sat 3 rows back in a dark grey suit that probably cost him a month's rent. He looked stiff, uneasy. Honestly, that was pretty standard for him. I walked up to the front, right where the officiant would stand. Our wedding coordinator, Patricia, she's been wrangling Montana weddings for 2 decades, shot me a look like I'd lost my mind. I just nodded at her. She moved aside. The music meant to cue Rowena's entrance kept playing, soft and awkward in the background. Guests started fidgeting, whispering, checking their watches, all eyes darting toward the entrance. But no Rowena. She was probably still in that little room, trying to make sense of what I'd just told her and scrambling for her next move. I raised my hand. The music cut off. "Thank you all for being here," I said. My voice sounded steady, more than I expected. "I want to start with a moment of complete transparency." I could see the confusion sweep through the crowd. My mum leaned forward, her face tight with worry. Rowena's dad glared at me, already bracing for something bad. I nodded at Derek, my AV guy, not even part of Patricia's crew, just some local tech I'd hired to run a slideshow. He pressed play on the laptop, and the huge screen over the reception flickered on. First a date, June 14th, 2024. Then a text thread, Rowena's name up top, Travis replying below, "Miss your hands on me. When can we meet again?" Same place. Thursday afternoon. The messages rolled out slowly, one after another, each stamped with a date and time, exactly how they'd been sent. Then photos. Nothing you'd call obscene, but intimate, close, impossible to explain away. Rowena in Travis's studio, her hand on his shoulder. Travis's car outside her office late at night, 11 p.m. on a Wednesday. And then the line I'd circled. "I think I'm still confused about what I feel for you, but I can't stop thinking about you." That was September 3rd, 10 days after Rowena and I sent out our wedding invites. The barn went dead silent. You could hear the projector humming, maybe even people breathing. Nobody moved. The slideshow kept going. More messages, more photos. A video from Travis. Just him talking into his phone, saying he missed her. All of it set to the same piano song Rowena had picked for her walk down the aisle. Now it just sounded like a funeral march. I didn't look at the screen. I'd seen it all already. I watched the crowd instead. Rowena's mom slapped both hands over her mouth. Her dad's jaw clenched, his face turning red. My parents sat frozen, my mom clutching my dad's arm like she was afraid I'd collapse. Friends glanced at each other, not sure if they should leave or pretend this wasn't happening. Travis tried to disappear into his seat, then realized people were staring. He stood up and slipped out the side exit. Nobody stopped him. Nobody said a word. The very last slide. A message from September 19th. "See you at the wedding. Can't wait to see you in that dress." Then the screen went black. I let the silence stretch. Then I spoke. "I found these messages 2 weeks ago. I didn't call off the wedding right away because I wanted everyone here to understand something important. Transparency matters. Trust matters. And if someone breaks that trust while planning the biggest commitment of their life, they don't get to control the story." Rowena appeared in the doorway. She'd seen everything. Her face was white, eyes huge with shock. She looked like she might bolt, but her body wouldn't let her. I walked over to her. My footsteps echoed in the barn. When I reached her, I pulled an envelope from my jacket pocket, the prenuptial agreement, now neatly torn to pieces. I kept my voice low, just for her. "You wanted time," I said. "Now you've got all the time in the world." I handed her the envelope. Her hands shook as she took it. I turned back to the guests. "The ceremony is cancelled," I said. "But the reception goes on. The food, the drinks, the venue. It's all paid for, and I'm not letting it go to waste." I gestured at the artwork around the barn. Paintings, sculptures, photos by young Montana artists, stuff that had been there all along but nobody really noticed. Until now. "This is now a fundraiser for local emerging artists," I told them. "Every piece you see is for sale, and every cent goes straight to the creators. These young people work hard. They deserve support. Dinner's still on. The bar's open. Please, stay. Have a good time. And if you feel like it, help out these artists." I paused, looking out at everyone. "Art reveals truth," I said, "and truth sets people free." I walked past Rowena. She was still standing there, frozen at the entrance, and headed straight for the bar. I needed a real drink. Behind me, whispers started to ripple through the room. Voices grew louder. Then chairs scraped back as people stood up, not even sure what to do next. Some guests left right away, shaking their heads on the way out. Others drifted closer to the art, curiosity getting the better of them. A few came, over, awkwardly offering their condolences or some kind of support. My dad just put his hand on my shoulder. "Son," he said. "That's all, just that word." But I got it. Rowena vanished. I heard later she'd locked herself in the bridal suite for an hour before her mother finally talked her out and drove her back to their hotel. She didn't say a word to anyone. No explanations, no apologies. She just left. The reception turned into something nobody expected. Instead of celebrating a marriage, we ended up celebrating something else. Independence, honesty, the guts to walk away from something that was already broken. By the end of the night, every single piece of art had been sold. The band switched to soft jazz. People clinked glasses, not sure what to toast, but feeling like they'd just witnessed something unforgettable. Some guests slipped out quietly. Others stayed until midnight, staring at the artwork, talking in low voices about what they'd just seen. The week after the wedding that never happened, I stayed in Montana. I'd already taken 2 weeks off for my supposed honeymoon in Bali, so I figured I might as well use the time. I rented a little cabin outside Big Sky, spent my days hiking, and my evenings on the porch with a bourbon, watching the sun dip behind the mountains. No social media, no statements, no answering the flood of calls and texts. I just let things settle in the quiet. Rowena tried to reach me. 17 calls in 3 days, then long texts, explaining, justifying, apologizing. She said Travis had manipulated her, that she was confused, that she loved me and had made a terrible mistake. If I'd just talked to her, she said, we could work through it. I didn't reply. Not once. On the 4th day, her tone changed. She texted, "You humiliated me in front of everyone I love. You're cruel." I stared at that message a long time. Then I deleted it. She'd humiliated herself. I just put it on display. Back in Seattle, the story took on a life of its own. People talked. Rowena tried to do damage control, reaching out to our friends with her side of things. She painted herself as the victim of a vindictive ex-fiancé who couldn't handle the truth. She said I'd invaded her privacy, twisted the messages, orchestrated a public humiliation out of spite. But evidence is loud. Louder than excuses. Friends who were there shared what really happened, not to gossip, just matter of fact. The slideshow was clear. The dates didn't lie. Rowena's vanishing act said the rest. Within 2 weeks, her story fell apart. People stopped returning her calls. Friends picked sides. Most of them didn't pick hers. Her business partner, Claire, who ran their interior design firm, cut ties. Claire had a reputation for trust and integrity. She couldn't risk it on someone whose personal life had become a train wreck in public. Travis didn't escape either. Someone from the wedding recognized him from the slideshow and posted about it, tagging his photography business on Instagram. Within hours, it spread across Reddit and Twitter. Clients cancelled. Corporate gigs vanished. His name was Mud in Seattle's freelance scene, where everything runs on word of mouth. He tried to go dark on social media, but the damage was done. Now he was just the guy who wrecked someone's wedding. Some people called what I did too much. A few said I should have cancelled things quietly, handled it like an adult, spared everyone the drama. But here's what they don't get. Rowena had already made it a spectacle. She brought her affair to our wedding. She planned to walk down the aisle and make vows she didn't mean. I just made sure everyone saw what was really happening. Then out of nowhere, everything changed. People noticed how I handled the fundraiser mess, not just friends, but folks in my professional circle too. I didn't blow up or make a scene. I just handled it. Next thing I know, a partner at a VC firm I'd worked with before reached out. We met for coffee in Pioneer Square. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Gavin, what you did took guts. Not the exposure. Anyone can air dirty laundry. The way you turned chaos into something positive. That's leadership." Within a month, I landed 3 new consulting gigs with big clients, companies trying to recover from their own disasters. Altogether, the contracts were worth about $200,000. They wanted someone who could keep it together when things went sideways. Someone who saw past the mess and found a way forward. Honestly, the irony wasn't lost on me. One of those clients was a startup that had just had a nasty, very public split between founders. They needed to fix their image, win back investors, and move on. I worked with their team for 6 months, and by the end they landed Series B funding and totally rewrote their public story. The CEO sent me a bottle of 25-year-old Macallan and a note, "You helped us through the mess." Thank you. That bottle's still sitting on my shelf. I haven't opened it. Back to Rowena. About 2 months after the wedding, November 2024, I heard through a mutual friend that she'd moved to Portland. She broke her lease on our condo, packed her car and left Seattle in the middle of the night. Smaller city, clean slate. She wanted to restart her design career somewhere new. She and Travis were done too. Turns out, once fantasy met reality, it wasn't what either of them wanted. She sent me one last message in December. "I hope you're happy now. You destroyed my life." So I didn't answer that one either, but it stuck with me for a while. I hadn't destroyed her life. I'd just told the truth. What she did with that was up to her. I wasn't going to stand there smiling through a wedding, pretending nothing was wrong. After all that, the artists I'd helped through the fundraiser started reaching out. One of them, a painter named Sophia, sent me a handwritten note. "I don't know what happened at that event, but the money you raised changed my life. I quit my restaurant job. Now I paint full-time. Thank you." That note meant more to me than any contract or paycheck. By spring 2025, I'd settled into my new life. I sold the condo, too many old memories, and bought a loft in Capitol Hill with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Space Needle. I started running again, picked up old friendships I'd let slip and started dating, but this time I was careful. I knew what I wanted and what I wouldn't put up with. One night in April, I was at a sushi spot in Fremont with Andrea, a patent attorney I'd met through work. We'd worked together on a rebrand for one of her clients, and she'd reached out to grab coffee. She was sharp, funny, and didn't waste words. Over dinner, we started talking about past relationships. She asked, "So what happened with your ex, if you don't mind me asking?" I smiled. "That's a long story." "I've got time," she said. I thought about it, then said, "She made choices. I made sure those choices had consequences. Then I moved on." Andrea nodded. "Good answer. We're still dating, taking it slow, but it feels different now. There's honesty between us, the kind I didn't realize I was missing before." A year later, September 2025, I found myself back in Montana, not for a wedding this time, but for a gallery opening. Sophia, the painter, was having her first solo show in Bozeman and invited me herself. The place was packed. Her paintings had gotten even bolder, all about change and resilience. I stopped in front of one called After the Fall. It was a phoenix, but not the tired cliché. This one was still burning, wings outstretched, already taking off. Sophia walked up beside me with 2 glasses of wine. She handed me one. "That one's my favorite," she said. "It's about realizing the worst thing that happened to you might actually be the best." I took a sip and nodded. "Yeah, I get it." She smiled at me, and I could see she really did. That night, my wedding that wasn't really a wedding, I remember thinking, this guy just turned his pain into something beautiful. You gave me and the other artists a shot we never would have had. But honestly, it was more than that. You showed us you can stare down the worst moment of your life and still choose grace. Grace, I laughed. Some people would call it revenge, maybe, she said. But revenge is loud, screaming, smashing things, making a scene. What you did was different. You told the truth. You made something good out of something awful. That's not revenge. That's alchemy. I'd never thought about it that way before. Over that year, I had a lot of nights to think things over. Sometimes, I wondered if I should have done things differently. Did I really need to go public? Or was that just my ego wanting payback? These questions kept me up sometimes, but every time I went back to those doubts, I'd remember Rowena. How she looked me in the eye for months, planning our wedding while having an emotional affair on the side. How she insisted Travis should be invited. How she almost made it to the altar before trying to bail out her way. Honestly, I don't regret what I did. Not the exposure, not the slideshow. Not turning that train wreck into something that mattered. What I regret is not seeing it coming sooner. Not trusting my gut when things felt off. Not asking hard questions when I should have. But those regrets are about me, not her. My career kept rolling. That first blast of consulting gigs led to more. By July 2025, I was standing on stage at a brand leadership summit in Chicago, talking about crisis management and brand recovery. Sharing what I'd learned about handling public disasters with some integrity, I realized my personal mess had become my professional edge. I didn't say Rowena's name in the talk. Didn't need to. The lessons were bigger than just one story. Be open if you want trust. Let the evidence speak. The way you handle the worst days says more about you than how you handle the good ones. After the conference, a woman in her 50s came up to me. Well-dressed, kind eyes. "Mr. Ellsworth," she said, "I was at a wedding in Montana last year. I'm a friend of your mother's." My stomach dropped. I recognized her then. She'd seen it all go down. She told me, "What you did took courage." My daughter went through something like it. Found out her fiancé was cheating 2 days before the wedding. She cancelled everything, hid away, felt like she was the one who messed up. But then she heard about what you did, and it changed something. She realized she didn't need to be ashamed. He broke the trust, not her. You gave her permission to stop apologizing for someone else's mistake. She squeezed my hand. "Thank you." I fumbled some kind of thank you back, but the conversation stuck with me for weeks. Rowena faded into the background. People mentioned her from time to time. She'd found some success in Portland, working with smaller clients, staying under the radar. Got engaged again, to someone nothing like Travis or me. Honestly, I hoped she'd learned something. That she'd grown. That she was honest with this new guy. I didn't want anything bad for her. I just wanted her out of my life, and I got that wish. Travis? Gone. Last I heard, he'd moved to LA chasing commercial photography. Maybe it worked out, maybe not. Didn't matter anymore. What I took from all of it goes way beyond cheating or betrayal. I learned that silence isn't always strength. Sometimes strength is speaking up, showing the receipts, refusing to let somebody else control your story. I figured out that grace and accountability aren't opposites. You can hold someone responsible and still keep your dignity. And the worst day of your life? It doesn't have to define you. It can point you somewhere new. I'm not the same guy I was in that barn in Montana. I'm more cautious now. I actually listen to my instincts. I don't brush off red flags or pretend things are fine when they're not. But I'm more open too. Not everyone is Rowena. Not every relationship ends in betrayal. Some people really do mean their vows. Some people stick around when things get tough. Andrea and I are still together. We moved in together in August 2025. It's different from what I had with Rowena. Simpler, more honest. And that feels right. We don't play games or hide things. If something's bothering us, we just talk about it right away. So here I am, October 2025, sitting in our loft with the Seattle skyline right outside the window. Last week, Andrea dug up an old photo of me and Rowena. I'd missed it when I was clearing out my stuff. She held it up and asked, "You want to keep this?" I took a look. Me and Rowena at some Christmas party. Both of us grinning, looking happy. Honestly, it felt like seeing strangers. "No," I told her. "You can toss it." She dropped it in the trash, didn't say anything, just kissed me and went back to making dinner. That's moving on. Not dramatic, not angry, just forward. Would I change what happened if I could? I really don't know. The pain, the embarrassment, the betrayal, those endless months of doubting everything, yeah, that was all real. But so was what happened after. The growth, the new chances, finally figuring out what I actually want. Maybe Sophia was onto something. Maybe it really was alchemy, taking something toxic and turning it into something better. I'm not grateful for what Rowena did, but I am grateful for who I became because of it. That's enough for me. Sometimes what looks like revenge is just the first step toward real freedom. If you like this story, hit the like button and drop a comment to let me know what you thought. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.